How's the weather?
Hello, everyone. You listen to the Queen of Show Talk with Angela Butler. Today, the interview is with Mr. Gregory T. Doctor. He is descendant of the original survivors of Rosewood, Florida. Rosewood, Florida is a primary African town and community where the property was stolen, burned, where they had to hide in the woods, and some of them were murdered. How are you doing this afternoon, Mr. Doctor?
I'm doing great, Angela. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good, good.
So, Mr. Doctor, you are one of the descendants of the survivors of Rosewood, Florida. Would you like to tell a little bit about the history of Rosewood, Florida?
Yes, I would. First, thank you for having me on. I know we've been trying to make this connection for quite some time, but
Yes, sir,
thank
we
God we're able
have.
to do it today. Yes. Rosewood was a predominantly black town. It was a small, uh, progressive black village in the northwest part of Florida. Uh, it's in Levy County, right outside of Williston and Brunson over there. Collectively, my family owned about roughly about 22,000 acres with all the family combined together. I was told that the average family had 300 acres per family. Some even had, like the Goins side of the family, they had several thousand acres. We had a turpentine mill, a sawmill. We raised vegetables, of course. We had baseball team. We had two churches, an AME church and a Baptist church. We had a school. So it was a progressive black village for African Americans at that time. But unfortunately, some of the whites that lived in the area were not pleased that blacks were living better than them. So there was a lie that was circulated by a lady by the name Fannie Taylor, and she allegedly claimed that she was abused and raped, and that's what started off the racial tension in January 1923. It happened for 7 straight days.
All right. So, who was your relative? Who is
My
your
fa- my family is the Evans family. I come from the Evans family. My great uncle, my grandmother's brother, his name was Willie Evans. He was one of the survivors to tell his story. Unfortunately, many of the elders, my grandmother, she was one, but many others, they didn't want to tell their story. They had vowed to take it to their grave. So there were quite a few of the survivors that were there that refused to talk about it. And then my cousin, his name was Arnett Doctor, or Arnett was the lead person to help fight for the reparations bill to get passed. And a lot of the elderly family members were upset with Arnett because he decided to tell the story. But it wasn't just Arnett Doctor, it was my cousin Ruth and Mentally Langley and Wilson Hall, his sister Mary Hall, my uncle Willie Evans, Arnett Goins, and they're the ones who decided to step up, and Ruth Davis, and step up and tell the story about what happened in Rosewood. They just said that the silence had just gone on too long.
okay? Right now, this happened in January of 1923 in rural Levi County, Florida. I'm also in Florida. As you are well aware, the NAACP has put out a travel advisory about coming to Florida and going to school here.
Yes, I saw that
So you're very
yesterday.
familiar with Florida.
Yes, I
Yes,
am. I'm,
sir.
I'm originally from Florida myself.
Yes,
I'm
sir. I
from Central
understand.
Florida.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
still in Florida, so I'm dealing with the effects of it.
yes, ma'am.
I know that at least six black people and two white people were killed, but they're saying that there's a higher, people believe that that time, in this time period, also there was a higher death rate of 27 to 150 people killed. How
That is
did your
correct.
family deal with it? How did you learn about Rosewood, Florida? Because I know there's no generational wealth left for your family.
No, well, I
That
didn't
there,
find.
there
I'm
was no
sorry. Go ahead.
the land 300 acres to 2 or 3,000 acres each, 22,000 acres of land is a lot of land.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
I
did
didn't
you
find out
ever
until
get the
Roosevelt.
land back?
No, we did not. I didn't find out about Roosevelt until I was 19 years old. My mom and my grandmother, and many of the elders in the family, kept that pretty much as a secret. Was They had vowed to take that to the graves. And so in 1982, when it surfaced about the Rosewood era, or Rosewood massacre, rather, Gary Moore of the St. Petersburg Time and Ed Brad of 60 Minutes, they're the first one to bring it to a national level about Rosewood. And that's when I became knowledgeable about Rosewood.
Now, no arrest was ever made And for several days, the survivors herd in the swamps until you were evacuated to larger towns by train and car. There has never been anyone arrested, and you did say reparations had been given, did you not?
That's right. 1994, HB 591, the bill was passed in the Florida State Senate, and part of the bill, they gave a 2.2 million, little over $2 million settlement, which had to be divided among the survivors, and the survivors had passed and went on to the next kin. And they also did what they call an educational attachment to that bill, and that provided for those who were survivors could attend a state university. And so we have successfully graduated 350 descendants from college as of today. Now, we did have some that graduate this month, so I don't have the numbers of that, but as of the first of the month, it was 350 descendants that graduated from college, from teachers all the way to doctors, which is a remarkable thing. And a lot of people not even knowledgeable that we received in the form of reparations, because we're the first blacks in America to receive reparations, and I think that is remarkable. So I think that the Rosewood Bill is a blueprint for other projects and other people out there trying to get reparations to be able to look at the format that our attorneys use. We were just blessed to have one of the best law firms in the country to represent us. Howland Knight Law Firm, Attorney Steve Helen, and Attorney Martha Barnett were the lead attorneys on this, and Attorney Ted Small and Attorney Dobrisky and many others too. And I also would like to say that there was a Republican that stepped up to actually get this bill submitted before the Senate, and we're very grateful to him. DeGrande, his name is DeGrande. He's out of Miami, and him and Congressman Al Lawson, Darrell Jones, and Tony Hill, and the Black State Legislature, they all stepped up to the plate and assisted in this project. It was a very narrow vote. We only won by one vote to get this bill passed. So there was a lot of tensions and a lot of people trying to be evasive in this conversation, because it's not a comfortable conversation when you talk about reparations and massacres and stuff like that. But
It's
to be
not
able to pull it,
comfortable because white people don't feel they did anything wrong.
yeah, people don't want to be held accountable. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes,
And
sir.
even to this day, I talk to people about Rosewood, and you'd be surprised at the number of people not even knowledgeable about Rosewood. And when I share the story with them, it's like, when did this happen? I'd say in 1923. And unfortunately, I was able to experience the trauma that I saw with my grandmother and some of the others who found out to talk about it, that effect it had on their lives, because my grandmother, man, she was depressed a lot. She went through a lot of depression and hurt and pain, but she never told me why. I didn't understand it until I got older.
Okay. So I have a question. That was
Yes,
a
ma'am.
film. This was a 1997 feature, was directed by John Signato. And in 2004, the state designated the site of Rosewood as a Florida Heritage Landmark. Do you believe that you will ever get the land back because of the rest of the restitution you received, that you won't get any of the land back?
Well, unfortunately, the land has been auctioned off to various people, so it's owned by corporations and private individuals. So, unfortunately, we never received our property back. It would be great day if we did, but that's not the case. It's owned by private people right now. There are a lot of hunting clubs out there, and like I said, we just read recently that the big Chinese company is coming in and do some industrial work there. So that's the sad part about it. We would never afford the opportunity to have our land and be able to pass it on to the next generation, see what type of generational wealth we can continue to build. So we're not afforded that opportunity.
Yes, 22,000 acres is a lot of land.
Oh, absolutely. That time of year, but even today, but even during that time, that's a lot of property. That is a lot
That's
of land.
still a lot of land, sir. In
Absolutely.
2023, May 23rd of 2023, 22,000 acres, and having 300 to 2 or 3,000 acres of land, still a whole lot of land.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people don't even realize, like the rosewood tree, which is what when they harvest those trees, they ship them north, and they use that to make the number two pencils. So the number two pencils, rosewood was responsible for about 80% of the pencils in the United States during that time. Came from the rosewood tree.
Yes, it sounds like a beautiful beautiful area.
Yes,
It
it's
sounds
close to
like
the coast. It's very close. It's close about probably about 7 miles from Cedar Key, so you're almost right at the Gulf of Mexico. It is a beautiful area there.
yeah, I'm about, I believe, 4 or 5 hours from there. I'm about 5 hours from maybe six, not four, maybe 5 or 6 hours from where Rosewood, Florida was at.
Okay, where you up in the Panhandle in
I'm in
West
the
Florida?
Panhandle of Florida, in Panama City Beach, Florida.
Okay, I know where that's at. I know where
I'm
that
is
place
what
is.
is nicknamed Hangman's Country.
Okay,
Hangman's Country, Lynching Country. I can't even
I'm
swear and say the
I got
area I'm from without somebody remember us saying, even the NAACP has said, oh, that's where they lynched all those black people. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Unfortunately, Florida had a history of a lot of lynching during that time and era. A lot of
yes,
people
sir.
don't realize that the history of Florida. Florida has a lot of history of lynching.
People don't think of Northwest Florida. They think of South Florida, Miami, Tampa,
Yes,
Jacksonville,
yes, those are the
Orlando,
most popular.
Disneyland. They
Yeah,
don't
well,
realize that Florida was that racist and still that
yeah,
racist.
yeah. Florida has a very racist state during that time.
Yes, sir, it is. It's still racist. The NAACP put out a travel advisory. I did an interview April 23rd, 2023 with Mr. Sabu Williams about coming to Florida.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Still dealing with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Still dealing with it. Uh, so it started because a white woman accused a black man of raping her, and he was lynched. Do you remember the
That's
name
true.
of the black man?
The claim. Oh wow. Yes, Sam Carter. They claimed that Sam had did it. And they claimed they she threw several names out there, but it ended up Sylvester Carrier was the main target that they really wanted. They didn't like Sylvester. A lot of the men in Rosewood had turned back home from the war, so a lot of these guys were expert marksmanship. They were very crafty in their craft. And Sylvester was a no nonsense person. They didn't like Sylvester, during that time there, and even to this day, they felt like he's supposed to be bow down to them pretty much. So, but Sylvester, that's not who he was. That's not the character he was. And so, like you're absolutely right. A lie was told by Fannie Taylor, and that's what started this whole incident. And I never shared this part with you, but some of those individuals that was part of the lynch mob, I grew up with some of the children and didn't know it. Fannie Taylor relocated to Central Florida, so she lived in my community. Didn't know it. Her son was my mom's fish man at the time. We didn't know it. We found this out after he disappeared, after the information started surfacing out in 1982, and he just kind of disappeared. And my mom questioned her insurance guy, and told her that that was Fannie Taylor's son. So, unfortunately, we lived in the midst of some of these individuals that were part of the lynch mob. So that was another reason my grandparents don't want to say silence about this too. I think they knew that, but I didn't.
Yeah. I know Rosewood, Florida at that time, according to the descriptions and things of it, um, you created your own community centers, and the residents of Rosewood were mostly self-sufficient. That you had
Absolutely,
churches, a school, a large Mexican hall, a turpentine mill, a sugarcane mill, a baseball team named the Rosewood Stars, and two general
Abs-
stores of wood.
absolutely.
One was white owned. You had about a
Hmm.
dozen two-story wooden plank homes, other small two-room houses, and several small unoccupied plank farm and storage structures. It also goes on to say that some of your family and the descendants of the people that were there living in Rosewood during this time had owned pianos, organs, and other symbols of middle class prosperity.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and the survivors, is that go through this, remember it as a time of a happy place. What have
Right,
you
right,
felt?
right. Yeah, it was a very arid place, and you have to realize too when these people, when my family moved there too, that was all swamp. So they cultivated into a livable habitat. So when they first moved there, it was all swamp territory. And so that was a major accomplishment too, as well. For these people to take this into from swamping to a livable habitat and self-sufficient village for the families to gain generational wealth. That was their plan long term. Accomplishing and purchasing all this property, they wanted to be able to pass it on to the next generation. But unfortunately, we were not afforded that opportunity.
Yes, I know. When Black people own property, even in this state, Black people try to take property too, but mainly white people have tried to take the little lot I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's anyone who can get behind your taxes. Anyone will take it. Anyone can. So yeah. Um, what I like about Rosewood it is that there were roses everywhere, and that Black people owned so much, and they were very prosperous.
Yes.
It reminded me of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, it was. It was. Not a lot of people, not the population was as large, but it was on the same scale. That's from being a progressive town.
Yes, very progressive town.
Yes,
There was
absolutely.
no government dependence.
Yes, yes.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
And
Being
I was reading something recently. They was talking about these different massacres, how it actually affected the economy in America. They're saying these different massacres like Tulsa and Rosewood and many others, Wilmington. I mean, the economy suffered trillions of dollars worth of loss. They don't talk about that because there were structures and these places were destroyed. And so they were contributing to the economy in some aspect, even paying taxes or what so forth. But when that was taken away from them, that money was not generated back into the economy. So there's a lot of losers on this when we have these massacres and these type of things that take place.
yeah, a lot of tax money was lost, and a lot of self-employment was lost.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Small
absolutely.
businesses. Yeah, it must have cost. How much do you think it cost with in all with
Well, let us just talk about just the massacres throughout the United States. They say it cost the United States economy trillions of dollars. They didn't give a specific number. They just used the word trillions.
I don't believe Black people should have paid taxes back then if they were segregated, but that's just my opinion. That's my opinion. I feel like it should be everybody's opinion. If you segregated, why are you paying taxes? But I guess that's just me.
Right.
I don't believe Black people should pay taxes at all in this country. Just like the Indians don't. Um, but that's my opinion.
Right.
Um, so recently, up to date times, has there in 1880, but do you know anything about a poll tax?
A poll tax?
A poll tax about voting. Do you know anything about that?
No, I'm not familiar with that at all. This
Okay, a
first I
poll
heard of that.
tax in 1885. Okay.
I'm not.
All right. So what has happened recently? I was told, in my understanding, is that there has been a monument.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was it in Washington, D.C.?
There was a marker that was put up in Rosewood. They have been replaced several times, but a monument. There's no monument to my knowledge about
There's
Rosewood.
no monument. There was nothing
No,
that has happened in
we have
Washington, D.C.
I think there was some organization that got a few artifacts put up there, but nothing on a major scale. Now we do have the Rosewood Travel Museum exhibit, and that's the exhibit that we can take around to place in universities and show some of the contents and some of the things that have been recovered from Rosewood. We've been blessed to. There's only one African American property owner. His name is Dr. Marvin Dunn. You've probably seen him on MSNBC, and he's the only one that has property out there. And then we were able to recover some of the artifacts from his property and some of the other areas throughout Rosewood, dishes and pans and spats. They've even found some chalk that they use to write on the blackboard in the schools here in Rosewood. And but as far as a museum, no, not to my knowledge.
All
We would
right.
like to see that happen. I would like to see that
All
happen
right.
though at some point.
All right. Yes. I think it would be great if you could have got the land back.
Yes, ma'am.
But
Everybody would have loved that for that could happen, but unfortunately that did not
all right. So what are the other descendants doing? What are you doing also in this day and time?
Well, I just recently had the Rosewood Centennial in Gainesville. Well, we had it at the University of Florida. Uh, our ceremony, we kicked off in Rosewood. We did what we call the wreath laying ceremony. We had the Masonic Lodge, the Grand Lodge out of Jacksonville, as well as the Eastern Stars to come in. We had former State Senator Cynthia Chestnut, who was keynote speaker. We had approximately about 450 people out there. That was the first time that many people had gathered together in Rosewood. And it was grateful because my cousin Arnett Doctor, I speak about all the time, his children and grandkids had never been to Rosewood. So just to see his children and grandkids playing out on the property of their great great grandparents, that was remarkable. And a lot of the other family members had never been out to Rosewood too. So it was a great opportunity for those to be able to go out and be able to put their foot on the ground of Rosewood. And we're just so grateful to Dr. Marvin Dunn and his foundation for opening up their doors to allow us to come out and have this event. It was remarkable. It was a remarkable event. That kicked off that Sunday, and then that Monday we started the traveling museum exhibit display at the University of Law School. And so we had a week of different events. That Thursday we had a docudrama. That was a documentary that was done by a professor prior to the movie coming out from FAMU. And then that Friday, we had the roundtable discussion legacy forum, talking about what's going on in America. Attorney Ben Crump was the keynote speaker for that Friday. And then that evening at 7 o'clock, we had the Generation X conversation. That's where we reported our younger family members to talk about how this has affected them and their knowledge and what they've accomplished and what so forth. And then that Saturday morning, we did the screening of the movie, the original movie, The Rosewood, show the movie. And then we were blessed to have one of my cousins. She played my aunt, Philomena Doctor, in the movie. So she was there. So she was able to ask, doing Q&A questions about the movie. Then that Saturday night, excuse me, we did the black tie ball where we honored all those individuals that participated in helping us get the bill passed through Congress. Holland Knight Law Firm, Attorney Martha Barnett, Attorney Steve Hamlin, Arnett Doctor, of course, Congressman Al Lawson, Darrell Jones, and Florida State legislators, black state legislators, and just quite a few people. So we just had to acknowledge these people and some of the family members too, who may contribute. In fact, Jamie Black, my cousin May McDonald, and all these people too, because they were the ones who were going with Arnett along with some of the other families to Tallahassee whenever they could. Arnett he was there practically every day whenever the session was open. But when there was a need for the other family members, those who supported him went up to Tallahassee and gave that support as much as possible.
Well, I know and during the 21st century, there was a gentleman named Tremont who was state attorney general, and he said that none of the 29 lynchings committed during his term were prosecuted, nor were any of the 21 that occurred while he was governor. It says Katz ran a platform white supremacy, anti-Catholic sentiment. So basically, what I see things happening current day time, they're trying to bring that back. They're trying hard to. The time period during Rosewood, Florida, even in this day and age, when it comes to property, and yes, some people say, well, black people do the same thing. That'd be the first argument about owning property. Black people will pay the taxes also if they can get the land, which is true. But what I see a movement here in Florida is gentrification, and in Georgia, gentrification, where they're taking black people's properties and selling it for a little or nothing to these people. And I see a lot of gentrification going on, but there's no killings. There don't seem to be any lynchings or anything like that. But what I'm seeing is gentrification. They're not doing what they did to your family in Rosewood, Florida. But what they're doing is they're moving into neighborhoods and making the taxes go up where people can't afford the taxes. These have been properties that have been in houses and properties that have been in families for 50 and 60 years, 100 years even. And I see
Absolutely.
that going on in Atlanta, Tampa, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, where I live at, and they are moving into mostly black areas that they have always, like where I live at. Where I live at is considered a bad area, right?
Hmm.
But I've had 10 offers, most of them by white people on the lot in the house that I have. And it's nothing spectacular, sir.
Right.
It's not 2 floors. It's
Hmm.
not three floors. It's a little 1-story house, about 1,500 square feet. And I don't
Hmm.
have anything near what your family had, but they're trying to take my property too.
Well, yeah,
And it's
unfortunately,
nothing like what you have, what your
yeah,
family have, what you have in current daytime. It's just a little 3-bedroom house with 2.5 bathrooms.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's
No
what we're
one's
dealing with.
mentioned me. They just tried to make me move.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
I said
that's what
make
we're
me
dealing
move.
with.
I mean, it's little things like making offers on the property. I got as much as $225,000 offer on this property,
Mhm.
and it's not even half an acre.
Oh wow.
Because I've had a lot of work done on. See, so no one's lynching me. No one said my house afire. They're just trying to take it by
Hmm.
making me offers on it, and I refused
Yes.
because I know how hard it is to get property.
Yes.
I know how hard it is to even get a house and lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my family, they sacrificed a lot to be able to accomplish and gain the property that they was able to accumulate. That was not an easy task.
No, it's not
So
easy. It's
it
not
was not
easy.
easy at
And
all.
I'm a
It wasn't
single
easy for
black
my family.
female.
Yeah, and you can imagine what it was like during that time and era. Purchasing all that property and being hated because you'd be able to afford the opportunity to purchase this property. People hate it because of their skin color. They look at you just being as a human being and be able to make these great accomplishments. So it was a lot.
They
It was a
still
lot. They
don't.
endured a lot.
They
Yeah.
still don't, Mr. Doctor. Mr. Gregory Doctor, they still don't.
Yes, ma'am.
There are still people who exist who don't see black people as complete human beings. They look at you, if you have something, it's if you stole something
Yeah.
from them.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Man.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I'm being
Yeah.
truthful. They look at you like you stole something from them,
Mm.
that you were born a thief.
Yeah.
But
Through this process.
Rosewood fascinates me because it's not far from format. One
Mhm.
day I'm going to visit Rosewood.
Oh yes.
I'm going to see Rosewood, Florida.
I encourage you to do so. Please do. I encourage you to please do make that trip.
My family's run off their property too. There weren't hundreds of people, it's like 4 or 5 people.
What part of Florida?
I'm talking about
What part of
Alabama.
Florida? Oh,
Alabama.
Alabama. What?
They run
Okay.
out of Alabama. Yeah. I
Oh
wrote a
wow.
book about it. Charles and Melinda. I
Okay.
changed the names. But yeah,
Yes,
my
ma'am.
family's run off their property too. And they
Oh
never
wow.
got compensation either. So my
Wow.
grandparents were. That's how we
Yeah.
ended up in Florida.
I got you. Got you.
They run out of
Well,
Alabama. Yes, sir. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, sir. I cannot hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. My phone was interrupting that call. I got a couple calls coming. I got another Zoom call here
All
shortly.
right.
Yes,
So we
ma'am.
got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Um, so I'm glad that you continue to work with your family, Rosewood, for you and the descendants. I can continue
Thank
to
you.
work and keeping the memory alive and letting people know what is going on.
Yes.
I wish you much success, you and your family in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
and I pray that all this hatred stops.
Yes,
The
that's what it's going to
hatred
take is
for
prayer.
somebody just because they're
Amen.
different ethnicity than you, a different race than you, different hair than you. It's ridiculous, but it's always went on. Being black has always been a crime. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but
So that's why
I
much
admire
prayer. Yeah.
Rosewood, Florida. I wish more black people could do what Rosewood, Florida did. But it's hard.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
we're
mean, I,
finding
I
with the redlining and refusing to give loans to black people and the credit and all that, here I cannot even get a loan here.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
Unfortunately.
but my credit's not great either. But with all the redlining and refusing to let black people buy property, this white lady named Miss Elizabeth Warren, she was talking about redlining and generational wealth. And First MDs, who I interviewed, Mr. Callie Lundy, was talking about generational wealth. They don't even want black people to be able to leave a lot in a house down to the next generation.
Wow.
I mean, you can't even there are black people still can't get a house. It's millions and millions of black people who are still renting because they can't get a loan.
Right,
And
exactly.
the way you leave generation wealth is through land and insurance and houses and things like that. But the main thing is land. Land is valuable. And they know it.
Yeah.
They know it.
Yeah.
The powers that be that know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of prayer and trusting God through the process.
A lot of prayer and trusting God. Yes, yes, yes. You have to pray.
That's it.
You have to pray and try not to worry about it.
Much prayer. Yeah.
But I wanted to bring awareness to people about Rosewood, Florida, and you, Mr. Gregory T. Doctor.
I appreciate it.
I wish you much success. Do you live in Florida?
No, I do not.
You do not live in Florida.
No, I do not.
I still live in Florida.
I'm there. I'm there quite often, but I don't live in Florida.
You chose not to.
Yeah, well, I'm retired military, so I've kind of been all around the world. But I want to say thank you for contacting me. You've been reaching out for me the last couple of months, but I've just been so busy.
Yes, sir, I have been.
I appreciate you. And I gave you my word that I would make it myself available today, and I'm grateful for your invite and allowing me to come out and share the story about Rosewood.
And I thank you coming on the Queen of Show Talk, Angela Butler, Mr. Gregory T. Doctor. I wish you much success in keeping the legacy alive of Rosewood, Florida, you and your other family members.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And associates and friends and people. I wish you much success at it. And I played it one day. I look on my television. You're at the White House, like Emmett Till's family was.
Well, that would be remarkable. Me, that would be nice to be able to take some of my elderly family members. That would be remarkable.
Yes, sir. I hope one day that during Black History Month, not even Black History, anytime, that I'll look on TV and say, "There's Mr. Gregory T. Doctor, Rosewood, Florida, finally getting the acknowledgement and the publicity that everybody will know about Rosewood, Florida, and what his family went through, and what they have accomplished, in the 1920s and 1900s. About 22,000 acres of land owned by Black people.
Yeah. All the different families together collectively own 22,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They own the families collectively. That's a lot of land.
Yes, it is. It surely is.
All right. So I thank you for coming on the Queen of Show Talk, Angela Butler. I enjoyed watching the film for the 10th time, Rosewood, Florida, with Miss Esther Rose from Good Times. And I hope to see and hear more about Rosewood, Florida. And I hope you will come back on and grant me an interview.
Okay. Thank you. God bless you, sister.
God bless you, Mr. Gregory.
Blessings. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, everyone. You've been listening to the Queen of Show Talk, Angela Butler. Today, we did an interview with Mr. Gregory T. Doctor. He is a descendant of Rosewood, Florida. He is one of the descendants. Rosewood, Florida, like you said, 22,000 acres. There's a film that's been made about Miss Esther Rose, most famous role that I know of her is Good Times. Is as the mother of JJ and Thelma and them on Good Times, but she's played a lot of other things Miss Esther Rose did. Great actress, great actress. Good Times was not her only accomplishment. And when I watched Good Times when I was younger, when I was a minor, I used to think to myself, she sounds so proper. That's what I called it, proper. I didn't know any better. I was like 13, 12, 14, and I thought, wow, what a proper talking woman. But she can act. The woman could act. Miss Esther Rose from Good Times could act her tail off. So that was who played the main role in the film Rosewood. and I've watched it 10 times. I understand Tulsa, Oklahoma, but Tulsa, Oklahoma is more known than Rosewood, Florida. Rosewood, Florida is not as known. The people who lived during that time did remarkable historic things. 22,000 acres of land, plus they had schools and all kinds of things. It was just remarkable. In Rosewood, Florida, they had a Masonic called Masonic Hall. They had, and it was during segregation, racial segregation. It was legal. Racial segregation was common in the late 19th century. In Florida, had a legal racial segregation on Jim Crow, requiring a separate black and white public facility and transportations. What gets me is they were segregated, but they did it without government help. They had 3 churches, a school, a large mason called turpentine mill, a sugarcane mill, a baseball team named Rosewood Star, and 2 general stores, one of which was white owned. They had a dozen 2-story wooden plank and other small 2-room houses. They had several small unoccupied plank farms and storage structures. Some of the family on pianos, organs, and symbols of middle class prosperity. One lady recalled, Miss Robin Moore recalled at the age of 79 that she was a child and that Rosewood was a town where everyone's house was painted. There were roses everywhere you walked, lovely. And he said he did not find out about this until he was 19 years old. These people were willing to carry this to their grave and not talk about Rosewood Floyd. But I'm so glad that it came out. Property is important. And with redlining the way it is in this day and age, it is ridiculous. With redlining and the banks and just all types of discrimination, it just seems like but you got to pray about it and put it in God's hands and go on. I believe in reparations for Black people. I believe in reparations for every Black person in this America. I don't call it United, but I believe reparations for every single Black person in this America. Well, that's human. When I say human, I mean not an embryo, not a baby. Yeah, but no, I take that back. I take all that back. I believe in the unborn should have reparations. I believe that the state of California is doing the right thing. 1.8 million. They're fighting it though. They are fighting that $1.8 million for Black people to no end. But for the citizens and residents of California who are Americans, what they have did in this country, reparations shouldn't even be a reason not to give reparations. Everybody else has received reparations. Pearl Harbor, even the people who involved in Pearl Harbor, the Japanese received reparations. The Jews have received reparations. There's no reason why they should not give Black people reparations. I said give Black people reparations because they earned it. It won't be giving. They earned reparations. That's for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of discrimination ever since Black people got off the boat. So anyone in the crossing, transatlantic crossing, when they brought Black people, Africans over here on ships. Current day discrimination, ongoing racism, all the police killings. Wherever there are no jobs,